Today's the day.
What's the word, YouTube fam? You are now tuning into Wait a Minute TV with your host, Jay Wade. And I just got back in from watching Woman in the Yard starring Danielle Deadwyler. And I must say, this film was completely different from what I was expecting. I think this film left a lot of its audience confused, including myself at first. But then I sat with my thoughts and it started to come to me. With that being said, today I'm going to give you my take on the film and break down some of the themes that I peeped throughout the movie. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. The Woman in the Yard follows a woman named Ramona, played by Danielle Deadwyler, who was a widow living with her two children in a remote farmhouse. After surviving a car accident that claimed her husband's life, Ramona struggles with grief and is physically impaired. One day, a mysterious woman appears in their yard, delivering an unsettling warning. As the woman draws closer to their home, Ramona must protect her children from the looming threat. This movie starts off as a horror film, but it ends as a psychological thriller. In the beginning of the movie, it's evident that Ramona is suffering from severe mental stress, grief, and unhappiness. At first, you think it's because she lost her husband in a car crash, but it's later revealed that she's been feeling like that even before this car crash even happened. This was displayed when her and her husband were in a disagreement about the future of their family. Although her husband feels like him and the kids are happy with where they're at right now in their newfound home on the farm, she feels like she's unhappy because she feels like she gives so much of herself to her family, while on the other hand, all of her goals and desires are being unfulfilled. In the first act of the film, Ramona calls out for someone or something to give her strength. Initially, I thought she was calling out to God to give her strength to go throughout her day. As a black man, I feel like I peeped the cultural reference right away because growing up in a black family, most men and women of African American descent have often heard somebody, most of the time, usually their mother or auntie or, maybe even a cousin, call out to God to give them strength, which is why I initially made the assumption that she was calling out to God. However, not too long after that is when the woman in the yard appears. Ramona and her children are rightfully alarmed by this woman's presence. So, what Ramona does is she goes out and confronts this lady. To make a long story short about this interaction between Ramona and the woman in the yard, Ramona goes out, asks the woman if she's okay, does she need help with anything? The woman's like, yeah, I'm all right. So that's when Ramona says, well, if you're okay, please get off of my property. And that's when the lady tells her, I believe that your children right now are ripe enough to eat. And that.
Today's the day.
So after this encounter, the entire time throughout the rest of the movie, I'm sitting there thinking like, this creepy ass lady dressed in black is some form of demonic entity that's there to devour Ramona kids. It's later revealed that the woman in the yard is simply a manifestation of Ramona's dark and intrusive thoughts. Every time Ramona is thinking of doing something dark or possibly dangerous, the woman attempts to either get closer to the house or what I would refer to as get active and starts terrorizing Ramona and her children. This is very evident to me in a scene, which, by the way, this scene pissed me all the way off. When Ramona is trying to give her son direction, and this little kid is steady not listening to his mother. And not only is he not following her direction, when he gets mad at her because she gets stern with him about not leaving the house because this woman is dangerous, he decides to proceed to call his mother the B word. Most people know that calling their mother a B word is not a good thing, but especially in a black household, it's a huge no-no. Unfortunately, because she was injured, she couldn't just slap him upside the head. But I know that had she not been injured, she would have leapt across that room and probably knocked him unconscious. Any mother would, especially a black mother. Also, had his father still been alive, his father would probably even did him worse, knocked his head between the washer and the dryer, and had him sleep out in the coop with them chickens that night. As the woman in the yard is inching closer to their family's house, the son is still taking it upon himself to not listen to his mother's direction, and he goes in to his father's safe and get his father's gun to attempt to shoot this woman in the yard. He ends up being unsuccessful at this though, because what the woman in the yard reveals to him is that his mother didn't tell him everything about the night that his father died, which ends up prompting him to go and question his mother about what happened the night his father died and she got injured. So what Ramona does is she, in a very emotional way, you could see the tears coming down her eyes, reveals to her son that she was the one driving the truck that night and that she ended up swerving into oncoming traffic until they ended up both crashing. You could tell towards the end of the movie that from this scene, this was her initial first unaliving attempt of herself. And the reason that she tried to unalive herself in this moment was because she was feeling extremely unhappy, extremely stressed, and overwhelmed at that time. Once we get towards the end of the movie, based on this scene, it could be insinuated that this was Ramona's first attempt at unaliving herself because she was so unhappy and she felt so unfulfilled, even though her family was happy. The reason why this became apparent to me was when the woman in the yard was revealing the reason she was even there in the first place. She tells Ramona that she called for her help. When Ramona initially called for something or someone to give her help, as I stated earlier, Ramona wasn't calling for someone to give her help to get through her day. She was really calling for someone to give her help to unalive herself and end it all. So the big reveal ended up being that Ramona had been battling with deep, dark thoughts of unaliving herself based off of all of the pressures and stress of being a woman that was trying to take care of her family while also being unhappy because she wasn't living in what she felt was her true desire. I believe that The Woman in the Yard is about not allowing your intrusive thoughts to win. The sometimes overwhelming responsibility of having to take care of a family and how that could affect one's mental health was also what I believe to be a huge driving force of the film. All in all, I'm still like trying to even now gather my thoughts and feelings about this movie because, to be honest with you, this was a heavy topic that I was not expecting from a horror film. This was something that I believe you sit down and have 2, 3 watches before developing like your full thoughts. But if I had to give an initial reaction to this, I would say that this was a very depressing movie. Once you realize that this woman was just truly unhappy on the inside because she felt like she was so stressed out from taking care of her family and wasn't living in her desire. Yeah, that's pretty sad. I'm not quite sure if I like this movie yet. I won't say I dislike it because I think that it was an unforeseen twist on the horror genre and even a psychological thriller twist. But all in all, it was definitely thought provoking. And I hope that this breakdown has given you all a little bit more insight on what I believe that the filmmakers were trying to convey through the movie. You all let me know what you all think down in the comment section. Let me know you all's thoughts and theories, and if you picked up on what I picked up on, or if you got something different from this film. Please hit that thumbs up button, share and subscribe, and until next time, YouTube fam, I'm out.